Hello YouTube, I Fix It All here, Team I Fix It All. It's about my seed bank. I keep in one of these containers here, and I keep stored on the floor in the garage here where it's chilly. That way heat transfers. But I'm kind of doing something here for another YouTuber. Let me turn on a light. Helped a little bit. Wonder if this will help also. How do I do this? Screw the bulb in. Yeah, that might be alright. So I'm going to run down the list of things that I have in my little seed bank here. And yes, it all fits inside this container right here. Got it from Ollie's for $5.99. Oh, and we shouldn't forget I think I've got them over there. Let's see. Marigold. There's enough seed in here to make it from Norfolk, Virginia to San Diego, spacing them out every 10 inches. Asking me how I did that calculus. Popsicle sticks. Where do I start? I need to keep that. Popsicle sticks so you can put them in the planter to write on them with a Sharpie what they are. So let's run down the list of things I have. Blue Hubbard squash. I'm doing this wrong. I don't like the light over here. I usually record over there, but I got another mess on the workbench. So Blue Hubbard squash. Buttercup squash. Spaghetti squash. Honey nut squash. Butternut. Alright, this is the one that I wish a lot of people would probably try to bum some off of me. This is a hybrid, but due to the bees cross-pollinating, I believe this is a real special squash, so I'll just read what I've written. Strange NFL squash. I've called it NFL because they grow like a football. They're pretty large, too. They're long football shape. They never turn from green to any other color. They're pumpkin-like in pulp color. Very sweet and good tasting, even without butter, which I found real interesting. I think this crossed with... this is a I forget what squash it was. Gosh, help me out. Dang it, I had it yesterday. Me and Britt decided we figured it out. It's almost like pumpkin on the inside. Think oval-shaped squash. It wasn't spaghetti. It was another squash that grows kind of ovally. Crossing with pumpkin. But these things never ever went from green. They just stayed green. So we just kept letting them go and letting them go, waiting for them to change, but they never changed. So we just decided to pick one and test it. Man, it was just so great tasting without anything added. So it's some sort of hybrid. Call it NFL squash. Acorn. Yellow straight neck squash. Yellow crookneck bumpy squash. Mystery squash. It could be butternut or spaghetti. Here's a strange hybrid. We were growing patty pan, and we think that it crossbred with spaghetti somehow, but I've had to give it a name. Snow White squash, because these were long football-shaped squashes that were they were snow white in color, the skin. They stayed white the whole time. So there you go. Here's a hybrid squash because they're supposed to be patty pans. Some people may know them as bush squash. Patty pan, by the way, is a type of squash that takes on the characteristic of the item you mix it with. It's a good stretcher squash. Like if you don't have enough apples to make apple pie, you add some of this and it'll take on the characteristics of apples. Making a carrot cake, it'll take on the characteristics of carrot flavor. It's a stretcher veggie. Really good though. I didn't know about stretcher type vegetables until just recently, where there are squashes and such out there and what have you, different types of veggies that take on the characteristic of the item you mix with it to stretch that ingredient out further. Black Beauty zucchini, butternut squash. That's what I think that NFL squash was a hybrid of butternut and pumpkin. Butternut and pumpkin is that NFL squash. There's white bush patty pan again. There's more spaghetti. Set this over here for a reason. Oh, it's gourds. So gourds are fun. Then we move over here, onion seed. Tidbits about onions. When they grow, and if you have any green onion stems that flopped over and bent, snip that off just below the bend, because if you don't, it'll stunt the growth of that ring. So for every sprout that you have coming off your onion, that'll be how many rings your onion has. So you want the most amount of green sprouts. Also, if it gets really super hot outside, some of your onions will do something called bolt. They'll bolt, which means bolt is bad. The onion will stop growing, but yet one of the green stems will turn into a bulb, and so you might as well look at it as a cup half full. The onion will have a big bulb. Just let it go as long as you possibly can, because it will open up, it will flower, and if you're able to put a lightweight net around that particular green stalk, and what you're after is you're after catching the seed. But when it comes time to extracting the onion, snip that stem off. The stem will be round. It won't be flat. It won't be ovally flat and hollow like the rest of them. It'll be like a complete straw, a circle. And at the very end of that will be the bulb, and that bulb will open up and turn into flowers. And those flowers, when the petals fall off, get something around that to protect it, because you don't want to lose any opportunity of any seeds. Harvest that onion, and then dry it out in a paper sack or something. Something that if little seeds fall out, you're not going to lose them. And there could be several hundred seed on just one bolt. And then you have a way to start onion sets again for self-sustainability. But if you're going to do that, you need to hope that you have like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 onions that that bolt on you. That way you have more samples of the genetics of that particular species you want to reproduce. You have more onions contributing to the DNA and the genetics of your onions. That's true for everything you collect seed from. Make sure you have a minimum of 3 samples. If you grow peppers, tomatoes, whatever, if you see a great big tomato, don't look at that as I can't wait to eat that. Mark it with a Sharpie. Don't touch it. Let that tomato go as long as you can. You want that tomato to grow so those seeds in there get real fat, and you have 2 or 3 big fat tomatoes, you collect up the seeds from those 3 tomatoes, and you dry them, you save them for your next year. There's onion seed. Over here we've got radishes, cherry bell, got beets, Detroit red, got Danvers carrot, parsnips. People who don't know about parsnips, they taste a little bit like a hybrid of a slight carrot flavor, somehow hodgepodged into the flavor of sweet potato. But they grow like a carrot, and they're a tuber. Cucumbers. Got beefsteak tomato. Oh, this is like remove the paperclip time. Okay. Beefsteak tomato. Cherry tomato juicy. Less pulp. I'm documenting this because I noticed something. Cherry tomato pulpy. Less juice. Roma tomatoes, which are pear tomatoes, most people call them. Abe Lincoln tomatoes. This whole cherry tomato juicy, cherry tomato pulpy, that's because something happened. They hybrided each other. But so a cherry tomato is really, really good. A smooth skinned tomato is really good for working up into your tomato sauces. But where the benefit here is that if you're after a tomato sauce, you don't want to have to spend a lot of time cooking that sauce down to get rid of the water so you have a thicker paste. And that's where this cherry tomato pulpy comes in. The downside is when you have one of these cherry tomato pulpy that I've nicknamed it, and this is a result of having tomatoes too close to one another, they'll crossbreed like instantly. So you never know what you're going to come up with. Tomatoes are very prone to crossbreeding easily with the neighboring tomato. The downside to this cherry tomato pulpy is there's very little caverns of the juice gelatin area. And one tomato, a cherry tomato, like, you know, a little under the size of a golf ball, might only have like 5 seeds, which I found very strange. Then there's cherry tomato juicy, which would be easy to work up if you're after tons of easy to work up tomatoes where you're just after tomato juice. And these have lots of seeds in them, in the tomato itself. These beefsteaks aren't as gnarly as the beefsteaks I grew up with. It was really kind of a sad day because the beefsteaks that I grew up with was from my Uncle Lester when he was in the Battle of the Bulge in World War II, and they were in a field, and a farmer's field, fighting and hiding out or hunkering down or keeping their head down, whatever, but they were in a field, and there was a couple of tomato plants nearby, and my Uncle Lester got one of those beefsteaks and got some of the seed and put it in a handkerchief and kept it in his pocket and brought them home, mailed them home, and then they started plants from these beefsteak. So every year after that, up until the mid to late 90s, early 2000s, I was the one caretaking to these particular seeds, and it was always from that situation of my Uncle Lester being pinned down in the Battle of the Bulge in that field. So we no longer have that tradition. It was terrible. There's always a story behind a story. All right, there's that. We got sweet peppers, sweet banana, and we got jalapeno, hot, green and red peppers. And then we've got peppers, bell peppers, red and green again. And then we've got, looks like cabbage, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, broccoli, cold weather plants. Little gosh, I just want to say so much, so I'm just doing inventory of what my seed bank is. All right, so then we got kale, spinach, cilantro, lettuce, bib lettuce, and we've got celery, parsley, butter crunch lettuce, basil. Basil salads are good. Basil is good. Lettuce. Where did my spinach go? Did I say spinach? I don't know where my spinach is. Makes it to the finish, says I eats me spinach. What the heck is going on? I don't know where my spinach is. This is bugging me. Hang on, guys. Oh, I said spinach already. Spinach. Okay. Then we got cantaloupe and watermelon. Then we got kohlrabi. I don't know what that is. I haven't grown it yet. Tried to, but nothing happened. Eggplant. We got pumpkin. Then we've got silver queen corn. We got bodacious corn, which is really true. These, and if you grow corn, you need a lot of light, and it also really consumes minerals from the ground. You've got to remediate fertilizer of some sorts. Corn and potatoes are really hard on ground. Bodacious is like I think it's similar to peaches and cream, which is just yellow and white kernels. I like silver queen the most because it's the juiciest, but to each his own. All right, and then we've got peas, sugar snap peas, 2 things of that here. Now we're into some lima beans. And then we got Kentucky pole beans. Kentucky pole beans are really interesting. I like them a lot because if you get them early, they're basically stringless, but they're like a foot long. You just snap them and freeze them and you're in, or snap and can. They just, if you just don't let them fill out, they're easy to work up, just like any other green bean, but you have more bean. It's just we didn't have many problems with bugs on them. Hardly no bugs touched them. They're really easy to grow. Like a 12-inch long bean, you know, and you got like 200-300 on one darn bush. Then we got our Roma. We got half runner green beans. We got tenderettes and another flower, Nostrium. I'm not sure what that is. I haven't planted it yet. Either I did and I just don't remember. And then I've got these pouches here, which are from seeds from days gone by that I save in case I need a pouch to share some seed with someone. I will just use these up. Normally I'm hand making my pouches out of legal envelopes and taping them with Scotch tape. That's what those are. You get your long envelopes, but if you break them up into 3s and Scotch tape the sides where they need to be, you have a little pouch. So that's me seed bank. I have a few things that I don't have in the garden yet because it's still, first week of May. In the Appalachia, we have a tendency right around late May to have an extreme cold snap. So I'm sketchy on that. One thing I do need is sweet potato plants. We tried to start ours from slips. These are trying to recover from being pulled out of water and put into dirt. But I may have to bite the bullet and buy sweet tater plants. There's my seed bank. Everything, all of the seed pouches go into this box. That box goes into that tote, along with everything here fits in that little tote back there, and there's a lot of spare room left. And I keep it on the floor in the garage to where it's touching concrete, and even on the hottest of days outside, it's still going to be chilly enough to not affect the temperature of these seeds to compromise them. It's not ideal. It's not like refrigerated or nothing, but some of my seeds are old-ish, Some are last year's harvest and some are 2022. I've got some 2020, 2021. So if you caretake to your seeds, if you're dealing with some seed that's like from 2019, 2020, go gangbusters on trying to plant that out. And if you have more come up than what you expected, then God bless you. But what you're trying to do is get that seed in the ground. Even if you've got to quadruple your seed, your odds of having 20% pop up, that's fine. Then you can harvest seed again, Old seed isn't necessarily useless seed. It is just, if somebody handed me some seed that's been in a basement for years and the basement's kind of chilly, I would probably, and they told me it was from like the 1960s or something, I'd plant all of it. I'd plant it all in a container and see what popped. That would be really, really cool to plant 100 tomato seeds and 6 came up. And all of a sudden now you're able to collect up 4 or 5 tomatoes from those samples. And it's like rolling the clock back. And here you have been presented with a tomato that has not seen sunlight since a half a century ago. I don't know why I find strange things like that interesting, but hopefully I'll be able to get my garden work wrapped up. I'm remediating some work on the raised garden beds. I'll do a video on that. Catch you all later. See ya. Bye.